the best part about this version of Imagine is there's such an array of projects that we get to keep working on. I'm looking at a cut of a documentary. We're doing a couple of development meetings, a little long-range soft prep on something else. Just had the Imagine staff meeting, which is so exciting because there are, just so many different departments, and people are really, really doing great stuff. So, and it's everything that Brian and I always did, but it's just supercharged and broadened by, the roster, the team.
Pretty incredible. And then on top of it all, evidently you're launching an acting comeback.
I play myself every once in a while, whether it's The Simpsons or I show up on camera in Arrested Development somehow, even though I'm also a narrator. I never fully understood it, but Mitch Hurwitz loved it, so that's what we did. He liked me, and he liked me narrating myself. He got a huge kick out of that, and so did I. Only Murders in the Building, This Is Us. I've done a fair amount of it, but when I read this script, I realized that it was a great role, and it was an incredibly well-written script. I was extremely flattered that they'd chosen me and Beautiful Mind as sort of their, the centerpiece for Matt's, horrible rock in a hard place that they were going to put him in. Every actor, likes to play a villain. I mean, I do. It's fun to play an asshole. But I did tell the guys that asked me to read the script, and I was, effusive because it's great. Look, the show is well written. They're great writers. There's no surprise there. And I said, I play myself every once in a while, and I view it as kind of a celebrity cameo. Mm-hmm. Just need to transcend this. I don't want this. If I'm going to do this, I have to try not to just be cameo good. I have to be actually good. And they laughed, and I said, "So who's directing?" And they said, "We are." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Okay, well, I put myself in your hands." But it was a blast. I mean, it was just took 2.5 days or something. It was just a absolute riot. And I had worked on it, hard enough that I was able to really play it. When Mitch Hurwitz wanted me to be in Arrested Development, I had 2 or 3 days of shooting in a row. Fortunately, all my work was with Jason Bateman, and he's so on top of his game and just so multidimensional in his kind of relaxed understanding of what every scene needs, that I felt so supported, because the first day I had no command, I had no gears. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody would give me a note and I would try to do it, but I had lost that command. It had just been so many years since I'd actually played a role. Right. Now this was easy, and I could kind of, this was a cameo version of myself. So, and it was super easy. But fortunately, Jason kind of helped me through that first day and a half. By day 3, I was playing a scene with Jason, and I felt like, oh, I think I have a little control of myself now. Mm-hmm. I can control the timing. I can offer some nuances. I can take a note from the director. I wanted to achieve at least that with the studio. And so I worked real hard on the prep. I conferred with my son-in-law, Seth Gable, mm-hmm. Who works all the time, and he's, he's very thoughtful about what he does. And my daughter Bryce, that's her husband, said, talk to Seth. He's like he's got great techniques.
What advice did they give you?
Just prepping, learning the lines methodically over a period of time. Read them before you go to sleep. My brother Clint said he always writes his out on a 3x5 card, not so he can cheat in the scene, but just the process of actually writing them and then carrying them around with him and looking at them just gives you confidence. They shoot it in an exciting way with the Warner style, but within that, they still create some flexibility and they're very open to ad libs, experiments. Like,
So were you able to ad lib and improv at all?
well, the hat throw was my idea. And I tried it in rehearsal, and Seth just laughed the big guffaw. We got to keep that, man. And so the hat throw was in, which meant he got whacked in the face about a dozen times or so by the time we were finished. But just bending the lines, making them fit, because I was playing a version of myself. So I wanted to utilize that as well. As with any character, if you're going to try to play it, you have to empathize. Well, it wasn't so hard for me to empathize. I've never had a circumstance with a scene that was that particularly personal to me as a director, but when I was acting, I did, and I kind of summoned up memories of those scenes, and and so a couple places where I'm supposed to get emotional.
What did you channel to find that emotion?
Well, it's like the whole things. I honestly channeled something that was personal, and it was painful, and so I don't want to go into detail, but I mean, I was doing my thing that I hadn't had to draw upon in decades. For it to be funny, it needed to really resonate. What was a blast when I saw the episode was how hilarious Anthony Mackie is in it, because I hadn't been around for any of the scenes.
So you hadn't seen the whole thing?
Well, I had read the script, but I hadn't seen how he was going to play the two sides of his persona. Wanting to get along with the director and support this filmmaker who had cast him in the movie, and by the same token, being a producer on it and saying to the guys, I don't know what to do, man, but it's up to you. I'm not going to touch it. I thought he was just hilarious. And, and it was all very honest. Some version of that could happen. I would never throw my hat, but I would imagine somewhere down the line, something, tables have been flipped and hats have been tossed.
Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Oh, I've been in situations where, even though I have final cut, it's still a conversation, and but nothing remotely that. No.
Did you have any notes on the character on how far they wanted to push it, or how far you were willing to push it?
No, I liked all that. Oh, that was the fun. I mean, look, it was the extreme nature of it was not frightening. It was alluring for me. That was fun. And no, we read through. I just wanted to read through all the scenes and make sure I understood what the tone. I hadn't seen any episodes yet, so we talked a little bit about that, and I might have pitched a couple little beats or something, but nothing major. Mostly it was just a kind of a session, an orientation for me. I wouldn't even call it a rehearsal, but just to read through the script, talk about it, and then I had a couple of other little ideas. I don't even remember what they were.
What about the idea of the one, or when did they let you know that they were going to be shooting it all in single takes?
In that conversation, and I said, I kind of gulped, and they said, well, they said the one thing I hoped they would say, which is there were going to be stitch points where they'd be able to draw from best takes, and I've never done a long 5, 6, 7, 8 minute oneer, or like got a whole episode like they did. But I in some action scenes I've done that with the stitches, and so I began to understand how it was going to work. They warned me, because it does mean you got to come to the set ready to go. They were on a pretty tight schedule. They're not wasting any time. They move right along. So from a filmmaking standpoint, I was getting a kick out of watching them put it together. You instantly fall into actor mode, which is kind of bullshit my line. So I didn't. I was very happy to not have to look at the big picture for even a heartbeat.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was it like for you to be directed? Did you enjoy it, being on the other side?
I can tell you, I've directed so many people who are directors and have made movies, and it's always a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I've it's the opposite of what you might expect. Directors, when they come to a set, they are so ready to help, and yet have they have really nuanced insights into where technical demands and logistical demands are going to run up against perhaps the spontaneity for the actor, or the demands on the actor for things that might feel a little bit in opposition to just freely organically playing the scene. And so I hope I was one of their I hope I was as easy as anyone they've ever worked with, because that was my intention.
And what was Seth like as a director?
Great. Well, they work as a team.
So Seth and Evan.
Evan is obviously by the monitor, but they both go back and look at the take together. They both go back. Either one could give you a note. Doesn't matter. It's just open in that way. But if you could be in the moment and pitch a line adjustment or something to Seth, and he could say, yeah, go ahead and do that. And it's not the other actor saying it. It's the director.
Did you actually get a note like that on A Beautiful Mind, or they just conjure that up in their head?
No. Everybody appreciated the twists and turns on Beautiful Mind.
I was just wondering where they came up with that one.
I do a lot of friends and family screenings. So, the whole premise is like 1,000%.
Right. It's all rooted in reality.
Plausible,
Right.
And even as a Final Cut director, I still do I do screenings large and small, and I often do my own Q&A with people to really, make sure people speak up. And I've fielded some pretty idiotic notes. And I will admit, once or twice, I may have teased people a little bit about a note, and maybe explained why it wasn't workable.
So it seems like you do enjoy playing yourself, given this and Only Murders.
Well, I'm going to say, if people are always asking me if I, want to act, and my pat answer is, I think the only way I'd make time for it in my schedule is if Bryce asked me to act in something she was directing. This did, because I really did roll my sleeves up and work on it, and I really am getting great feedback on it. And I even felt okay about it when I watched it, which is kind of rare for me when I watch myself. It reminds me how much fun that can be. And when you're directing, there's some laughs, and but you don't have that same camaraderie that you get, when you're acting, and sitting around waiting for the next take with Anthony Mackie and that cast. Well, we had a lot of laughs, and it was fun. It's a different kind of a vibe on the set. It stirs more insecurity, right? I was exhausted at the end of these days.
Really?
And I remembered that I always found acting exhausting in many ways, more so than directing. I'll be more physically tired directing and more mentally tired from a full day of acting, where you really have a lot to do. Actors cannot help but question themselves and wonder and replay takes and in their mind. And it's people don't recognize this. And this is one of the reasons why I love working with world-class actors, because I do know what they're putting out there, and I know the risks they're taking, and I know what it feels like psychologically, and I try to create an environment where they feel, as safe and free and as they possibly can. This was a great vibe, and they were so in control and so confident about it that I did, I felt good. I wasn't tossing and turning in the night, but I did recall that other kind of exhaustion that I used to feel when I was a full-time actor after a big day of shooting.
So give me your critique. Are you proud of both, given both performances in Only Murders and The Studio? Can you look at them and be proud of them?
They're both fun. Only Murders was a little bit more of the typical cameo kind of, and whereas Studio demanded a hell of a lot more. Both were fun. And how great are Steve and Marty? I've known them both. I've directed Steve. I've produced projects that Martin Short was in. They are like a well-oiled machine. But funny and sharp and creating, and there's not a beat that is phoned in, giving it everything, creating beautifully, and they were inspiring as hell to see in action. I was more being a fanboy as I was going through those scenes than anything else.
And where did the nickname Ron Ron come from?
I have no idea. I was just in probably Marty. He probably just with John Hoffman or something. They just that wasn't an improv. That was there.
That was there.
Yeah.
So which one would you say is closer to the real you, Ron Ron or the studio version?
Somewhere in between. I think somewhere in the middle lies. I'm not quite that affable and fun loving, and nor am I the hard ass in the studio, but.